let me welcome to the stage, I think he's here somewhere, our Senator John Hoeven. Senator Hoeven, welcome, and we're thrilled that you could join us. We just saw you last week at the SOARS conference, the Stratospheric Operations and Research Symposium that we had also here at UND. So, sir, it's great to see you.
Thanks, President Armacost. Thanks for your great remarks, Andrew. Good to be with you. And thanks to Emerging Prairie and the University of North Dakota for hosting this great conference. And I'm kind of disappointed that we have to do it virtually, although it works great virtually too. But I was really looking forward to planting those beans in moon soil. And it also looked like you had a good lunch lined up. And so I figured maybe if we planted those beans in moon soil, then next year we could be eating them during the lunch when we come back and have this conference again next year. So, but I'm sure the kids will get them planted without us, and we'll look forward to that. And again, just a great concept to piggyback on what President Armacost said is, ag in space, and he's 100% right. Who better to do it than North Dakota? Because I mean, we really have marvelous things going on in all things aviation, aerospace, and space at the University of North Dakota, and extended beyond that with Grand Forks Air Force Base, with Grand Sky Technology Park, with the Northern Plains Test Site, and just a one-of-a-kind aerospace, aviation, space partnership in the world, really in the world, and leading in so many ways in Grand Forks. And then you combine that with, as President Armacost rightly said, the absolute leading University of Agriculture in the United States, North Dakota State University, and of course, Dr. Cook doing a tremendous job, so great to work with. And the Grand Farm concept really hatched and developed by folks like Greg Tavine and Emerging Prairie, one of our sponsors today, and Barry Batchelor, one of the great minds, and so representative of some of the incredible entrepreneurs like John D. Odegaard that have really gotten and continue to get these amazing things going. But this intersection of space and agriculture is so important and so timely and fits so well with the things that we bring to the table in exciting ways. And what a great thing for young people that want to come to school here in North Dakota in the Valley, whether it's at the south end or the north end, including the State School of Science, NDSU, UND, Emerging Prairie, all these things. We offer opportunities now like no other. And so I like the fact that we have the virtual aspect here because, let's really reach out and let talented young people, not just across North Dakota, but throughout the United States and beyond, know what we're doing, because this is the place to come. And there's no question. And the thing I have to be careful about is this. I guess I love this subject so much that I know keeping my remarks to 10 minutes is going to be a challenge for me. But there's 10 minutes in regular time, and then there's 10 minutes in Senate time. And sometimes 10 minutes in Senate time goes a little longer. But I'll try to, I got a clock over here on the wall. I'll try to kind of be careful not to go too much longer. But let me start with by just putting it out there. Space travel's here. We can do and are doing space travel. But we've got to figure out how to sustain life out there in space for a whole variety of reasons, whether it's going to the moon and setting up on the moon so that we can go from the moon to Mars and so on and so forth with manned space travel because of the gravitational pull, and then just the ease of launching from that platform to go to other places versus the Earth's gravitational pull, all those kind of things. So whether it's sustaining life on another planet or the moon or something like that, or just the timeline that it will take for space travel to get to places, we're going to have to be able to sustain life for long periods of time out there. And that poses real challenges in terms of food and water and that kind of thing. The exact kind of thing that we work on all the time at NDSU with the incredible ag and ag research programs that we have there. So to fuse University of North Dakota and the space studies, the UAS Center of Excellence, all the things we're doing in aerospace and aviation, Now the stratosphere, we just had that great SOARS conference that President Armacost referred to. It's just a natural for us, and this is a great way to fuse those things, with this conference. I want to just kind of step through a couple things that I think really bring that whole concept home of how we're making incredible progress, and I hope kind of create a little excitement among the participants and beyond, that this really is the place. North Dakota is the place. If you want to be part of this exciting future that's actually happening right now, come here because it's real, and it's not just like in the classroom stuff. We are doing it. So let's start with not just space studies programs and so forth at the University of North Dakota, but let's extend out to the Northern Plains Test Site. I mean, number one, you start with the largest school of aviation training in the nation at the University of North Dakota. And then you bring in all these amazing partnerships like I've talked about, the UAS Center of Excellence at UND, which we started back during my governor days. It's been there for quite a while. It's fabulous, the progress they've made. But then linking that with the first test site in the nation, the Northern Plains Test Site, which was the legislation we put in place back in 2011. Matter of fact, Senator Warner and I now have a bill to extend that out to, I think, 2028. But we were the first test site. We're by far the best test site. We have partnerships that no one else has at the Great Plains Test Site, the Northern Plains Test Site. The combination of that test site with our technology park, Grand Sky Technology Park, again creates opportunities no one else has. We just got a new one through FAA with our ability to allow people to come and fly unmanned aircraft in our airspace without BVLOS, beyond visual line of sight, without chase aircraft. That enables them to develop a safety record in the NAS, the national airspace, by coming and joining us. That's going to bring more of these leading aerospace companies to our test site and to Grand Sky Technology Park. And then combine that with what we're doing in a military capacity, not only at Grand Forks Air Force Base, but also the Cavalier Air Station and their radars and that kind of thing. But we now are going beyond the ISR, the intelligence, reconnaissance, and surveillance mission, where we lead with things like Global Hawk nationally. We're going beyond that now with the SDA mission, which is Space Development Agency, and their LEO, Low Earth Orbit satellite mission, which obviously reaches out into space and will become the global communications backbone for all of our military services across the globe, everywhere, and other comms and mission capabilities as well. And there's two military bases in the country that will handle the communications for that low Earth orbit SDA mission. The Army base, one will be an Army base, that's Redstone, Alabama, and then the other one is Grand Forks Air Force Base. And those two bases will control that LEO comms mission globally. And we're talking about thousands of satellites, and they're being put up there now. I work with this directly through my role as part of the Senate Defense Appropriations Committee. We fund all things defense, and so all things in this realm. And just to kind of give you a sense of how this goes, we will have more than 1,000 of these low Earth orbit satellites up there, and we're already putting those satellites up there now. Going to space travel. So let me touch on that in a real world example of what I'm talking about. 2 years ago, myself and my state director, Jessica Lee, went down to Cape Canaveral at the invitation of Derek Tenier and the Space Development Agency, because SpaceX at Cape Canaveral was putting three of the SDA satellites out into space. And they wanted us to come down and actually see the launch of a Falcon 9 SpaceX rocket from Cape Canaveral that would be taking these three satellites, along with other satellites, as the payload out into space and putting those satellites out into space. And so for me, it was an incredibly eye-opening experience, because I didn't really I had, the old days of space travel was we'd fire the rocket off, it would drop, the first stage, the second stage, the capsule would go out, either go into orbit or go to the moon, and then eventually return, and it would plop down in the ocean. The ships would go out, we'd pick it up, and that was that. Then we got, of course, to the shuttle, where it was more like an aircraft going back and forth to the space station, but not off to the moon or somewhere else like that. And we did that program for a while. But now, with SpaceX and some of these other public-private partnerships that we have rockets that go out into space with a payload, like in this case, satellites, or it could be people. They go out into space, they do their mission, they turn around, and they fly back, and they land right where they took off. So here we are at Cape Canaveral. 3 of these SDA satellites are on this Falcon 9 rocket, along with some other satellites that they were putting up for other companies. And essentially, those rockets take off from Cape Canaveral. They go out and do their mission, like I say, and then they turn around and they fly back, and they take off vertically, and they come back and they land vertically. Either they could land right there on the pad they took off from, but out of safety, they actually have them land on a kind of a floating pad out in the ocean, just a ways offshore. I think they do that just for safety. So we were down there to see that launch, and actually a helicopter had flown into the launch area on the day. So I didn't get to see it. I had to leave. Jessica stayed. They launched the next day. She got to see it, and sure enough, off they go out into space. Put those satellites, these satellites and others out there. Then the rocket turns around, flies back, and lands there at Cape Canaveral. And in fact, while we were there, they took us over to the SpaceX warehouse, where they had 10 Falcon 9 rockets. All of them had been out into space like 10 different times doing missions and come back. That's 100 flights where they'd been out and back. And I mean, they go out and do a mission, come back. They don't even repaint them or anything. I think they wash them off a little bit, and then they put them right back out on the pad, and off they go. They can take satellites, they can take people, they can take whatever. But these rockets, so I mean, space travel's here. That's it. I mean, these rockets go out and back and perform these missions. So we're at that point now where it's changed from these kind of one-off launches to where we send these rockets multiple times. They go out, they come back, and they can perform whatever missions we decide they need to perform. The issue now is, how do we, if we're going to put people on there, and we are doing that, but if we're going to put people on there and send them out there to the moon or wherever, and then they're going to be out there a long time, or they're going to try to base somewhere, how do we sustain life out there? That really is becoming the limiting factor in terms of our space travel. We can do space travel, and we'll get better at it and faster at it, all those things, but we got to sustain life out there. And that's why this conference is so important, because we've got to figure out how to do that. Probably a lot of you, maybe all of you, saw the movie The Martian with Matt Damon, where he's stuck on Mars, and he's out there digging around trying to figure out how to make sure that he can feed himself and survive until they come get him. Well, that now is a real issue. We really do have to figure that out. And who better to do it? Now we kind of swing further south, where we've got not only NDSU and their expertise, but you have Greg Tavine, Emerging Prairie, which Andrew's a part of all that. And all these great entrepreneurs are part of this amazing network, and they're doing phenomenal things. Well, one of the things they did was they got with Barry Batchelor and others, and we helped them along the way, but they've established Grand Farm. And their whole concept is to make Grand Farm autonomous farming, but just think of all the ways then that connects with this whole idea of space travel and actually trying to figure out how we do farm in space, if you will, but really sustain life by providing the food and water sources that people need if they're going to be out there for extended periods. So all of this ties together. And if you think about what I've just said, and I'm going to check my clock. Okay, I got a minute left. If you think about now what I just described, President Andy Armacost, who, he went to the academy, he taught at the academy, he's probably some kind of super duper engineer. So he obviously way smarter guy than I am. And he said in just a few short sentences, he talked about that fusion between the universities and between space studies and the ag studies, and that's what this is about. And it's a great opportunity, and we need to do it. I've just described what he said very succinctly and very cogently and very correctly. And I hope by talking about it in this tangible way, and I just scratched the surface. I mean, I could go into what we're doing now in hypersonics, or what we're doing in the unmanned. For example, General Atomics at Grand Sky is developing laser communications between UAS platforms, unmanned aerial systems, and these low Earth orbit satellites. We're not going to use radio waves. It's going to be laser. Again, faster, quicker, harder to intercept. And they're doing that right now. So again, think about some young person that wants to get involved in this and doesn't want to just sit in a classroom and have somebody lecture at them, but actually wants to be a part of all these things with internships and job opportunities and research and all this kind of stuff. It's here, and we're doing it, and we're going to lead the way forward. And last week, like I say, or a week or so ago at Source Conference, we had another first with an FAA approval. We're going to have more of those all the time. And so we want to encourage everybody to join with us, partner with us, be part of this exciting future. So great job in capturing the concept as always, guys. Kudos to Emerging Prairies and UND for hosting this event. And thanks so much for inviting me to be part of it.